Good afternoon, everyone. We'll give it just a couple more minutes for folks to roll in. All right, we can probably go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, and welcome everyone to today's session titled Make Monthly Giving Seamless with Salesforce. I would like to start by thanking everyone who's joining us to listen in on today's conversation. Today we'll be discussing monthly giving on the Salesforce platform, and we'll hear from Chargeit by @Frontier and FormAssembly on how the Boston Athletic Association and Give Back, two nonprofits who are able to simplify their process, scale technology, and connect with their donors in a whole new way. To help us highlight this, we're fortunate to be joined by Brett Halling, Chief Account Executive from Chargeit, and Scott Alder, Senior Partner Account Manager from FormAssembly. @Frontier and FormAssembly have been great partners with Roadpath, helping us serve numerous clients in a more meaningful way, and we're excited to share how you can bolster your volume of donors by making monthly giving a seamless experience. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, we did reserve some time at the end, so please feel free to chat them as they come up, and we're happy to get to them even mid-conversation, depending on how applicable it is, and happy to address them toward the end. Again, for those of you joining us, welcome. During the next 45 minutes or so, we hope to accomplish the following objectives. Number one, we hope to give you a foundational understanding of monthly giving and what it is. Number two, we want to help you identify signs that your monthly giving program may need an overhaul. And finally, we want to highlight a best-in-class solution for managing a monthly giving program. To introduce myself, my name is Eric Underson, and I lead our sales organization here at Roadpath. I have leadership and management accountabilities across sales, partnerships, and account management. And in my role, I help clients make a greater impact on the people they serve through Salesforce. I also lead a stellar team of curious, team-oriented problem solvers. Before we begin, I want to share with you a little bit about Roadpath for those who may be joining us for the very first time. We are a Salesforce consulting and implementation firm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We've been a Salesforce partner since 2008 and serve healthcare, nonprofit, and educational institutions nationwide. Having completed over 1,000 projects in these sectors, we have a passion for mission-driven organizations and are dedicated to digital transformation and solving technology challenges. Organizations seek assistance from Roadpath when they are exploring a move to Salesforce for the very first time or are considering expanding their use of the platform. We were recently recognized as one of the fastest growing companies in Minneapolis by Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal, and again, our premier Salesforce consulting partner. So as we think about monthly giving, anyone who's ever caught part of a public media pledge drive certainly knows about sustaining donations. But did you know that just about any nonprofit can set up a sustaining donation option for their donors, also called sustaining memberships, recurring donations, monthly donations? The concept is this: rather than an individual or an organization giving a single one-time donation, they give repeatedly over an extended period of time. One of the biggest benefits to offering monthly giving is that it makes your funding more predictable rather than trying to budget for an entire year based off predicted donations from a big once-a-year gala. You see money coming in monthly and can plan accordingly based on those decisions and based on that data. A sustaining donation option also means higher retention rates. So intuitively, if you give to an organization once or even twice a year, every time they reach out, you're making a new decision all over again. You're weighing the costs, the benefits, your own personal motivations, and largely planning from square one. But if you're giving every month, it's much easier to keep that donation in flight than to justify another one-time expense. Once you have a donor's information in your CRM, retention campaigns can be easy and painless to set up. They often require less intensive planning, less action, and fewer expenses to maintain. Combined with higher donor retention rate, it's easy to see why monthly giving can reduce your costs and mitigate expensive acquisition campaigns. A great CRM for nonprofits like Salesforce can help reduce overhead costs even further by helping organize donor information, give you data to help plan effective retention campaigns, and automate process, thereby giving you more time back to engage with those who matter most. So here are some signs that your monthly giving program may be in need of an overhaul. The first thing is you might not have one. So now is a great time to start thinking about how you can impact end of year giving and kick off the new year with healthy forward momentum. Maybe you have an aging donor pool. Today, there are literally millions of mission-driven organizations to give to, many of which with important missions to complete. You might say that retaining your donor base is mission critical. Encourage them to stick around by providing simple and effective ways to stay involved. Just as we covered, if you're feeling the burden of high donor acquisition costs, it could be a worthwhile investment to consider a more automated way to retain your beloved donors. Credit card recapture and lapsed donor communication are two gaping holes where donors attrite the most. In this webinar, you'll learn how Chargeit and Form Assembly, coupled with Salesforce, can eliminate those issues and help you build engaged donors for life. This is the broad solution map of what we'll be covering today and covers just a portion of the broader vision that you might have for your organization overall. But in this example, Salesforce allows you to better track donor data, helping you make more informed decisions in how you target and engage familiar donors. So for example, some subsequent forms or forms that you might send out to your donor base, you might find that maybe if organizations, say if your organization serves both kindergarten through first grade, maybe second through eighth grade, and then post-secondary and beyond, if you break up forms, you might find that certain donors are more engaged with one segment, which allows you to tailor your communication and more likely receive a higher return on your appeal rather than just one general appeal overall, hoping that your donors love your organization for its entirety rather than maybe one specific thing. And so being able to segment those audience and really pinpoint how and why your donors are invested in your organization is critical to continuing to grow their philanthropic involvement with you. I'd like to introduce Brett now from Chargeit by App Frontier.
Awesome, great stuff. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. So hi, everybody. My name is Brett Holling. I'm the Chief Account Executive over here with App Frontier. App Frontier is the makers of Chargeit payments for Salesforce. Thank you, sir. So a little bit about me. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem since 2011, largely in a consultative sales role. And in my current role, I'm responsible for acquiring new business, expanding our existing customer base, as well as managing our sales team. So what is Chargeit? Why would a nonprofit be interested? So Chargeit was introduced to the App Exchange in 2009. Chargeit is a 100% Salesforce native payments application. At a very, very high level, we essentially integrate Salesforce with 31 payment gateways, providing the capability to manage all one-time and recurring credit and or debit card and or bank draft payments directly in your Salesforce organization. Fun fact, come to find out through some recent account investigation, our largest segment of customers is nonprofit organizations. So we are very, very cognizant of the missions that you all strive for on a daily basis. In short, Chargeit helps companies streamline the payments process using Salesforce. Now, quickly, what benefits would a nonprofit organization realize from using Chargeit? Well, you're going to see faster processing, which equates to getting donor money in the door quicker. More flexibility in payments, offering more payments channels and system configurations. Increased automation through the use of Salesforce tools, increased visibility and insights through Salesforce reports and dashboards. And we also offer tools that will help you to reduce your PCI scope. Now, when we talk about monthly giving, it is super helpful to zoom out and ask, who are your donors and how do they want to give? I really don't think any of this will shock you, but we see two clear trends here. Number one is that donors do prefer to give online. According to the Global Trends in Giving report, 44% of donors worldwide prefer to give online with a credit or debit card. 51% are enrolled currently in a recurring giving program, and 45% of those donors have contributed to an online campaign benefiting a nonprofit organization. Now, clear trend number two. We also know that recurring donors are far more valuable to your organization. And why? Recurring donors have a 200% retention rate. As well, they give 42% more in a single year than those who give one-time gifts. Now, how does Chargeit help you reach those donors and turn them into sustaining supporters? So donors expect a seamless online interaction like those they experience as retail customers. Essentially, when they're ready to give, they expect to find the right payment options at the right times in the right locations. In general, donors are super engaged, but they're also volunteers. They're active with your political causes. So you are actually competing for their attention. So whether you're reaching them on your website, through online campaigns, on your mobile device, via email, or even over the phone, you have to be able to capture that payment the instant they're ready to give, make it easy, and once they're ready to give, make it much easier for them to become recurring donors. Now, how does Chargeit help? Chargeit makes it super easy with our flexible recurring giving. We make recurring donations super simple, automated, and they are instantly connected to your donor data in Salesforce. Of course, Chargeit is fully customizable and easy for your team and your donors to manage. Now, let's take a quick look at a recent Chargeit success story. And I'd have to say this is a Chargeit and a Form Assembly success story. So the Boston Athletics Association. The Boston Athletics Association is the nonprofit organization that runs the world's oldest annual marathon, the Boston Marathon. So every single year, the BAA manages 30,000 participants from 100 countries. They manage charity participants raising more than $36 million per year and 10,000 volunteers over that single race weekend. So the challenge here for this globally recognized brand, the participant experience is absolutely paramount. So you can imagine when registration opens, thousands of participants are eagerly trying to register all at once. And you could imagine that that would cause something of a rift in those systems. So how were they managing it? Well, they were managing all this with manual tools. So emails, Excel spreadsheets, and individually handling any problematic registrations. So the solution started with Salesforce and filled in the gaps with App Exchange products. This is yet another project where we got to work with our partners at Form Assembly. The Boston Athletic Association uses Form Assembly for their online forms and Chargeit for credit card processing. So the solution is this. When a participant registers for the marathon, they fill out the online payment form, which includes some credentials, some verification aspects, as well as credit card. But the credit card is just authorized at that point because the marathon needs to verify that they have actually run a qualifying race with a qualifying time within the last 2 years before they can actually register them for the Boston Marathon. So the card authorization is run through Chargeit, and then after going through the necessary verification, the team needs to capture these charges in a bulk fashion. You can imagine just clicking 30,000 times is going to be quite cumbersome. So the payment capture process was created using the Chargeit API and the Salesforce reporting API. So when all the participants have it verified, they simply write a Salesforce report and charge all the registrants at one time. Now the results here, the registration experience is super easy and seamless for the registrants and volunteers around the world. And the Boston Athletic Association leveraged automation wherever possible. Out of tens of thousands of registrants, staff only touch the ones that they need to explicitly manage. And thank you for
Perfect, Brett.
having us. Do you, Scott?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the qualifying time, the only way that I would be able to reach that is with a good tailwind and rollerblades for the Boston Marathon. One of these years, I might go in as a charity exemption, so I will literally be using Chargeit and Form Assembly to get in as the charity exemption. So everybody, thank you again. I'm fortunate and blessed to work with great partners like Roadpath and Chargeit. So real quickly, you don't need to spend a lot of time on me. I'm senior partner account manager at Form Assembly. I've been here a little over a year and a half now. I've been a Salesforce user from way back in the early days of 2005. Both as a salesperson trying to track salespeople and people I want to contact, all the way through now working with the nonprofits and such. Just a side note, my wife has been in nonprofit for over 20 years. So you all have a very soft spot in my heart. Thank you for what you do. But let's take a look to see what is Form Assembly, or let's actually take a look at a quick history. So basically, we've been around since 2006, and we had just been on a growth spurt ever since that time. We've got well over 5,000 customers now. They're spanning everything from nonprofit, which, like Brett mentioned, is probably our number one vertical that we serve, as well as healthcare and higher education. That's just naming a few. People come up with uses of Form Assembly from different verticals that we had no idea even existed. And we've been a gold partner with Salesforce for a decade now. So if we just jump over to what is Form Assembly anyway? Well, what we do is we help you collect and use and be good stewards of the data that your donors are entrusting to you. First and foremost, Form Assembly is easy. I'll use the phrase for myself. Can I code? Yes. Do I want to? No. Unless absolutely pushed to it, I don't want to have to. So we are a no-code form builder and data collector. And what that does for you is it helps you remove time, consuming time for just manual entry. I mean, we still see it today. Google Sheets, Excel, like Brett mentioned, people just trying to get the information manually into Salesforce. And what happens is when you do that, you introduce a human factor error. That is just something that's a natural state of the world. It is a very powerful tool. It is unmatched with the integration between Salesforce and Chargeit. And again, jumping back up, does that mean it's hard to make it work? No, it's actually easy. In fact, if you go on the App Exchange, there's a great story from a small nonprofit out there. The woman was basically saying whenever she was coming up with, it's time for me to change my appeal, or it's time to change this campaign, she said, it would take 3, 4, 5 weeks working with the developer, cost her a few $1,000s. And then it finally went out. And she said, the interesting thing is when I finally found out about Form Assembly, about 45 minutes into it, I had already completed my form, I had it published, and I was getting the results that I actually needed to. So again, that is the key piece. It's easy to use. Now, Does that mean that it can't be complicated? Absolutely not, because if you have developers or you're on your own team that want to inject custom code into it, fantastic, because it's versatile. So what this basically means is you're going to be able to collect any type of information that you need. The bidirectional sync between Salesforce and Form Assembly means that we don't care whether it's going to a standard or a custom object. We can match all of them. If you've got something that you're tracking that's like your donor's favorite ice cream or their favorite cookie or anything like that, we can get the information in there and help you build out that donor profile. And what's great is that allows you to invite them to support your organization through, obviously monthly is the best. I am a consistent monthly donor. From my standpoint, it's a lot easier for me to budget on a monthly standpoint than it is, oh yeah, December 29th or 30th, I need to get this check in the mail, or I need to make sure I get online to donate X dollars to the organization. If it's just monthly, it's kind of a set it and forget it. And it's easier, like I said, for me to budget, I would assume, and we see this as the case with your donors, it's just easier to do it. And it is trusted and secure. We have more five-star ratings on the App Exchange than any other competitor out there. So let's just jump in, take a look at Give Something Back. This is a success story that's really fun to talk about, because what they were doing is they work across about 7 different states. They provide financial support to struggling high schoolers. And what they're really wanting to do is give them the opportunity to go to college. They have a special interest for those that have been in foster care or that have experienced homelessness. They receive both federal and state grants, as well as ongoing donations. So what was their challenge? If you want to jump up to the next one, they were typical. Paper forms are slowing down the whole process because they were getting applications in. The staff had to go in and review the application, get the information into Salesforce. By that time, a couple of weeks could have gone by between when the initial application came in and they're actually able to get it into Salesforce to make it actionable. So what they needed was an easy Salesforce integration and having donation options. And because they were a small team, they needed to have it to be hugely customizable. So if we take a look and see what happened at the end, $35 million in grants given after 2 years with Form Assembly. And they've also served well over 1,000 students that have been enrolled in the program. So again, what I would leave you with, the 3-legged stool of Chargeit, Roadpath, and Form Assembly is going to set your organization up for success, not only through the end of 22, but all the way through 23, 24, 25. As long as your organization is around, we'll be here to support you in whatever and wherever you want to take us. So Eric, turn it back over to you to kind of wrap this up and see what questions have come in.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Brett. Really appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully today was super helpful in understanding how you can paint maybe a more clear picture around this idea of monthly giving and implement it for sort of, I would say, like a relatively low effort to ensure that you have a bit of scalability in your development practice. If anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them now.
So Brett, Eric, I can see one.
Sure.
It's more of the smart form features that Form Assembly has. This is one great question. The smart form features are everything from what you would expect. For example, like when you go in to fill out a form, and if you need to have somebody entering their address in, we now have functionality for the address to be automatically completed and filled. You can also go in and you can add in formulas that says, if this, then that. So you can actually send your donors down a different path. So for example, like Eric had mentioned earlier, if you've got an organization that serves multiple different groups of people, or even multiple facets of the org. So for example, using Eric's example, if you've got a organization that is, or if a donor has really expressed interest in, you know what, I'm really interested in helping out kindergarten students, help them be successful. Through what we would take a look at on the smart features, like a workflow, you can actually take that, use that same form and bring in multiple different email forms and emails and forms. You can send them down a completely different path as far as somebody that's saying, you know what, I'm really interested in, well, if we look at Give Back, if the organization also serves high schoolers to get them into secondary education, you can take them and send them down a separate path automatically with that is completely tailored to the answers that they are giving you in those forms. You can have things like, you know, conditional logic. If they say, if you ask a question of, would you be interested in giving annually? And they say no, well, you could have conditional logic says, great, how do you want to give? Do you want to give us monthly? Do you want to give us quarterly? They say, I want to give you monthly, fantastic. Populate that automatically into say, fantastic. Here's your form that you need to fill out for your monthly giving, and here's the connector that Chargeit offers, and just go ahead and send that all the way through. But that's something, great question. Smart form features. Again, this is not difficult to set up. I want to emphasize that. It's incredibly powerful, but I look at the number of really small organizations, and that's for-profit and nonprofit, that are using us, that they're just able to get the forms to look, feel, and get the information that they actually need as they go through. And they're using that through conditional logic. They're using that through workflows. They're using formulas to say, if this, then that. So great question. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I see another one came in as well. Question is, can I use Chargeit to take payments at an event?
Great question. Yeah, absolutely. So Chargeit offers a couple of different avenues in which you can take payments live in person at an event. So it all depends on kind of the tools that you have available to you. So if we're cruising around the event floor and we need to take a payment, maybe we're gonna sell a t-shirt, or maybe it's even registration to the next event or something like that. You have the ability.
Scott, did you lose Brett as well?
I did, unfortunately, and he was just getting to the pinnacle.
There you go. There you go, Brett. I think you're back.
All right. Sorry about that. It's the day and age that we live in today. Sorry for the internet connectivity issue. So yeah, we do offer a couple of different ways in which you can take payments at an event live face-to-face. So you can use our payment console through the mobile browser, through your mobile app, through the Salesforce mobile app, and or using your tablet or your laptop using the Salesforce browser, or right through the Salesforce user interface. We also have our card present solution. So if you want to give the capability for someone to offer a donation by swiping a card, swipe, dip, tap, or using your phone, watch, any kind of modern payment method, we have our card present solution called Chargeit Terminal, which allows you to take any of those card present transactions, which is doing a couple of things. So it's mitigating transaction costs, because a card present payment is a lower transaction fee to you, the organization, as the merchant. It also is bypassing the payment gateway, so you're eliminating another fee. So the card present payment is going to be a little bit less costly. And it's also going to add that transaction level detail directly into Salesforce. So now you've got the donor, the donation transaction information next to your donor records directly in Salesforce.
Appreciate that, Brett. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Question came in here. So once a sustaining gift program is established, what are some best practices for growing it? Now, Brett, happy to sort of opine here, but wondering also if you have heard, or if you have had other nonprofits, clients share with you some of the lessons that they learned, or even something that you might recommend to a nonprofit who is starting to establish a monthly giving program.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question too. The number one attribute that's going to keep those sustainers going is the automation, and then the automation that you can create using Salesforce, Form Assembly, and Chargeit. So using Form Assembly and Chargeit to take in that initial donation and setting up those recurring or sustaining donations. Then using Chargeit and your Salesforce automation to keep those sustaining donations running on a timely basis is going to help relieve that manual effort to make sure that, you know, as Eric mentioned before, it's a whole lot easier to, or I think Scott actually mentioned, sorry. It's a lot easier to keep that monthly donation going.
Technology.
Awesome again.
Yes. Technology is great
course,
when it works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then there's also the idea of following up with any kind of failed or missed payments immediately. So Chargeit offers a couple of different tools in which you can keep those sustaining donations going with very, very little human effort whatsoever. So things like adding retry logic, or automatically sending out a payment link via email to customer or to donors and constituents that, you know, may have missed a payment. So just using the automation that's available to you with Salesforce, Chargeit, and Form Assembly is going to help you keep those sustainers going.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Brett. One other question that rolled in, I think, Scott, you had sort of touched on it a little bit earlier in the conversation, but maybe you can expand on it a little bit more. This question is, do I need to know HTML or programming to collect data with Form Assembly?
Yeah, thanks. Great question. No, you don't have to. I mean, that's the magic that happens. Being able to set up a form, I mean, we literally have on our website, or if you go on our YouTube channel, there's actually a 5 minutes to your first form. And it's setting up a super simple contact me form, or, you know, get more information. It literally is, you're using drag and drop. You're just dropping the fields in. I mean, if anybody would like to, Roadpath has put together and stood up so many different instances of Form Assembly. They could demo this for you in a few minutes. Happy to share that with you. And again, you know, it really is that simple. Once you get the form set up, getting the connectors set up to go over to Salesforce it's easy once you've done it a couple times. I've gone through our certification program, for example, and I approached it with, what does it look like for somebody that's never used Form Assembly before? And so I went real carefully through it. And it's the way that the forms are set up and the way that the technology is set up it's really logical. And so basically, when you set up those connectors to get them into Salesforce, you're just telling Salesforce, where am I getting this information from your form? So, you know, for example, if I'm going to have in Salesforce a first name, last name, address, email, interest, you're literally pulling that information and you're just telling Salesforce to the connector, okay, for the first name, go to the first name on the form, grab that and pull it across. For the last name, go to the last name field on the form and pull that across. So again, you don't need to. If you want to, if you have that ability, 100%, you can absolutely get a really complex form out there. There's organizations that will do that. They've got some real simple, you know, how do I request a parade permit, for example, to when you start taking a look at, then when they go further down that path, they've injected a ton of custom code into the form. We can do that, but from the standpoint of, should I be intimidated by trying to make Form Assembly work? No, please don't be, because it is very straightforward. And again, I'd reference the example that I gave earlier of the small nonprofit off of the App Exchange, where she made the mention. I don't know how to code, but I could sure get form assembly to work. And because of the color palette and the way that I could do the formatting, it matched our logo and it matched our color scheme. And that's really easy to do. Take a grain of salt when I tell you this, because I am colorblind, our marketing department and our SEs have said, we have never not been able to, there's a great combination of words, match a color palette for a university, for example, that are very, very particular about how their colors come across on their forms and how their logo looks. So easy to do. Don't need to know how to program or do HTML. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of our clients that we serve and stand up form assembly forms online for them, you know, looking for sort of that seamless engagement, that seamless interaction. A big part of that is that branding aspect too, to make sure that it's not clearly an out of place form on a website, but rather part of the broader website and part of the broader experience that a donor is going to receive when they give to your organization. A question came in, says, how can we create a new token immediately when a donor gives us a new banking account without having to wait until the next charge date? Our organization does not have the Chargeit package for the payment console. Brett?
First of all, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yep, you're going in and out, but we can hear you.
Thanks. Sorry, guys.
Sure.
First of all, Angela, thank you for being a Chargeit customer. We really appreciate you. How can we create a new token immediately when a donor gives us a new banking account? So the way you can do this without the payment console, now, of course, it would be much easier with the payment console. So you can just update a token. And that does not charge anything to the customer. It doesn't really send anything over to the payment gateway. But the way that you can do it with Sites Edition is to send them a payment request email, but select the option to authorize by the minimum amount. So you're essentially going to authorize the new bank account or credit card for like usually $1, but it's the minimum amount allowed by that payment gateway. And that will just put an authorization, and then it's going to grab that token and add that new token to Salesforce. Now you have two options once you have that authorization. You can void that immediately, and so that authorization will never show up on the donor's actual bank statement, or you can let it run its course, right? And that authorization will then drop off after a 2 or 3 day period from the payment gateway. But that's essentially how you do it. So you send over an authorization payment request email, grab that new token, and then either void that authorization while retaining that token, or just let the authorization fall off. All depends on how quickly that the constituents are taking a look at their bank statement and how many phone calls you guys want to get regarding those authorizations. It's usually a question: why am I seeing this authorization on my?
Brett, you went in and out there at the end. Anything you want to recite there? All right. Awesome. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending this today. I hope it was a very valuable experience. We look forward to serving you in the near future. Thanks again, folks. Have a great day.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks all.